we're cognizant of those concerns.
All right.
One last question. We have, I lost the page. We have $220,000 grant, and we've already spent $54,000. Does that mean we only have to pay a little bit less than $12,000?
The total award of the contract was $286,000. To date, we have spent about $54,000. Yes, sir.
Is that $54,000 county money or $54,000 grant money?
We haven't broken it down. We still are in the process of, we report quarterly for these grants, so we're in the process of getting reimbursement for some of those funds as part of our quarterly reports.
Okay, just refresh my memory. The $66,000 that is the county's cost is budgeted in this fiscal year only, or this year and next year?
Well, we're planning to put it in next year, but
it's in the current.
It's in the current year's budget.
09-10 budget year. Correct. Yes, sir.
Correct.
The whole $66,000 county's responsible for.
That's correct, isn't it?
Yes, sir. It's in the current budget. And we were also cognizant of your directive early on when the contract was awarded to proceed cautiously.
Okay.
Thank you. Appreciate your report.
Thank you very much. Have a great evening.
Thank you, sir.
The next item on the agenda is appointments. Rappahannock Area Agency on Aging Board of Directors. Who's going to take that, Mr. Ashcraft?
Mr. Chairman, this was a vacancy that just recently came up, and we're looking for any suggestions the board may have for an appointment.
Have you gone
and Mr. Chairman, if I may?
Please.
I mean, our board meetings are during the day, in the middle of the day, and they're in Stafford. And there is an opportunity to, the law allows phone meetings in some cases, but we do need to have someone who's going to be pretty active, and yeah, it makes, with this, somebody's closer, it makes sense if somebody's closer that way, they can attend the day meetings. We receive a lot of funding through this agency in the county, so we need to make sure we're well represented. But we need to find someone who will really be serious about it and attend meetings. And I guess we go out and look again, but really with people in my district, it's a long ways to go to Stafford. So it's going to be hard to find somebody to read church. But
she replaced Mrs. Boxley, who replaced Mr. Boxley.
Mr. Boxley,
right?
Ms. Boxley.
And that was who Ms. Boxley requested. I think she lives down here. Yeah. Okay.
So we can think about it, but keep in mind that there's a lot of activity going on with the RAAA. There's a lot of opportunities for weatherization as we approach the winter months, and we really need to do a good job, getting the word out, with conservation and just, if you save money on insulation and things, I mean, that's money right in the seniors' pockets, and it's a lot of opportunities now for improvements, and I don't know how the county can better get the word out, to our seniors. And it's not necessarily seniors. The weatherization program would affect, anyone, especially in the LMI bracket. But there's a lot of opportunities. So I don't know how we get the word out.
Okay.
But it's there.
Board can be thinking, Bobby, it may be an area that you live closer to Stafford or your district is closer. Board, you live in that area as well. If anybody has a
I think I may have a couple people I'd like to recommend, but I haven't asked them to do so, but I will do that the next meeting.
Okay.
They're 1:30 meetings, and they're on Wednesdays.
Gotcha.
Third Wednesdays of each month.
We're going to leave it up to you at this point to find someone and
I'll do it.
okay? All right, next item on the agenda is consent agenda. Is there an item on the consent agenda that any board member wishes to pull? Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Seeley, seconded by Mr. Popowitz, that the consent agenda be approved as amended, and you have a letter that sent it to, that's in reference to item 3F, expressing the board's displeasure with the fact that we're going to sign off on it, but we're not happy about signing off on it.
And that letter's coming from the chair for the Board of Supervisors.
Okay, further discussion? All in favor by saying aye?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay, and the motion is carried. Can we do first section with it? Section going into personnel? We have a while before we have the public hearings, and we'll reconvene at 7:30. I'd like to maybe go ahead and get rid of the personnel issue in the closed meeting. Is there a motion to go into closed meeting under section 2.2-3711A1? Is that all we have? That's it. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we convene to close meeting under section 2.2-3711A1 personnel.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion is made by Mr. Rozelle, seconded by Mr. Popowitz. And you heard the motion, the discussion on the motion. All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. And the motion is carried. The board will go into closed meeting, and we'll go over to the emergency services room. Reconvene well, first of all, before we reconvene the board supervisors meeting, is there a motion to come out of closed meeting?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Rozelle, second by Mr. Popowitz, that we come out of closed meeting. We went into closed meeting under section 2.1-3711A1 personnel to discuss the performance of an employee. No action was taken coming out of that closed meeting. Mr. Popowitz, do you certify we only discussed in closed session what we went into closed session to discuss?
I so certify.
Mr. Thomas? Mr. Seeley?
I so certify.
Mr. Rozelle?
I so certify.
And I certify as well. First item on the agenda, or the next item on the agenda, is public comments. If there's anyone in the audience that would like to address the board on any issue at all, other than a public hearing that's going to be held later this evening, please come forward, state your name, your voting district, and express your concerns or your issue. If there's anyone that would like to address the board on any issue at all that is not included in a public hearing in a later meeting, please come forward, state your name and your voting district.
Hello.
Good evening.
It's Jay Fuller. I've been working my neighborhood, talking to
Your name, please?
Jay Fuller, F-U-L-L-E-R, Macedonia Road, District 7, Port Royal. And pretty much they want to keep it green and the same. They really don't want change. And getting the petition going, I hope to get a bunch of signatures to come back to prove it to you. Not just my word. I tried to talk everybody to come down, but nobody wants to come down. It's very difficult.
I understand.
But we're concerned about the Chesapeake Bay, the watershed. We have a lifestyle. We're trying to keep our lifestyle the same. We don't want to be sardines like out in Woodbridge and D.C. We don't want more development. This is a lifestyle we have, and we really enjoy it. And Caroline has a long history. I know I talked to Mr. Baker. He's my neighbor. He's one of my best friends. He's 85 years old. I've been here 85 years in Caroline County, and I love it. I don't want any change. You coming down, Mr. Baker? No, I got to go to church. But other than that, just try to keep like a green area. I know Portland, Oregon, designating green areas, and they're putting development in one area. And they said they did a study on it. You can't really compete with the world if you keep building infrastructure and using fossil fuel. You come uncompetitive. And Caroline County is in between the two big cities, DC and Richmond. And it'd be nice to have a green area instead of all development all the way down to Richmond from DC. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Phillip, appreciate it. Is there anyone else who would like to address the board on any issue that is not included in the public hearing later this evening? Hi, how are you this evening?
Good evening, gentlemen. My name is Rena Frisk. I live in the Port Royal District also, off of Guinea Drive. So I would also like to reiterate that gentleman's concern around the proposal at this point. As I look at the map, my residence sits smack dab in the middle of what would be zoned an industrial area, which is very concerning to me for both the well-being of my family and also my property value overall. In addition to that, as he said, I have moved into this area probably in the last 13 years or so. I moved here because I wanted this lifestyle for my children. I chose not to live in Spotsylvania because of the overdevelopment, and it concerns me that that is starting to creep down. In addition to that, and I believe this has been briefed previously to the board, but I also want to reiterate my concerns. I am very concerned about the lack of involvement of the community that has been put forth on this proposal right now. I have found out about this through the good work of Carol, and she's done a nice job of getting the community involved, but I would like to see more of that from our representative so that we have an active community voice and we can collectively make a good decision for the community.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Is there anyone else who would like to address the board on any issue that is not included in the public hearing later this evening? Is there anyone else who would like to address the board on any issue that is not addressed in the public hearing later this evening? Seeing no further comments and hearing no further comments, the public comment period is closed. Next item will be public hearings. The first public hearing is TXT 07-2008. Mr. Fincham? I'm sorry. Mr. Emerson has indicated that he believes that we can have a public hearing for all of the text amendments that, or the ordinance amendments that we're looking at, but we'll need to vote on individually.
Yes, sir.
So this public hearing that we're going to be opening up in a few minutes will address all the public hearings that you see on the agenda this evening. Do you have a copy of the agenda, people in the audience? So just keep in mind that if you'd like to speak on any of the items, please come forward when we open the public hearing, because it will only be one public hearing this evening for all of the text amendments. Mr. Fincham.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, your public hearings tonight, TXT 07-2008 through TXT 12-2008, all deal with provisions that would allow private roads to be constructed in lieu of VDOT maintained roads in the RP, AP, commercial, and planned development districts. These issues have been discussed extensively by the board since they were first presented to you at your February 28th meeting. And by way of brief recap, the board, through zoning actions in cases such as planned developments where you have traditional neighborhood developments like Ladysmith Village, have allowed certain types of private roads in those communities as part of your zoning process. The board has also, through zoning action, allowed private roads to be constructed in some of your commercial projects in the county. Ladysmith Commons is an example. What the board has not done in the past is allowed private road subdivisions in rural areas where you have residential development. These proposed amendments would establish a process by which developments would have to go through to secure approval of a private road as part of the development process. And it will require the Board of Supervisors to grant a special exception permit for these private road subdivisions. During the course of the last several months, there have been a number of discussions by the board as to how to guarantee that the roads would in fact be constructed to state standards, how the county could be protected to the maximum extent possible from having to pay for maintenance and upkeep of these roads. And a number of amendments to the regulations were prepared by the county attorney's office, which includes, for example, the requirement for the creation of a service district that the board can activate should the Property Owners Association fail to maintain the roads. And we've also incorporated other suggestions by the board to protect the county and to ensure that the roads are in fact constructed to state standards. As I stated, these amendments have been discussed extensively by the board, and you can have a public hearing on all 5 of the hearings at one time, but you would need to vote on each one separately. And I'll be more than happy to answer any questions that the board may have about specific proposals.
Board have questions of Mr. Finch before we open the public hearing? All right, no one seems to have questions right now, Mr. Finch. At this point, we'll declare the public hearing open on item number 4, text amendment 07208, text 08-208, text 09-208, text 10-208, text 11-208, and 12-2008. 07208. Is there anyone who would like to address any of these text amendments? If so, please come forward. State your name and your voting district, either in favor of or in opposition to. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to address the board either in favor of or in opposition to the text amendments that have been listed? If you would, please state your name and your voting district.
Good evening. My name is Tim Thompson. My voting district is Port Royal, Bobby Popowich. I'm in favor of the private roads. Matter of fact, I think this whole thing got started because I asked for a private road, because there was no language or no tools to be able to utilize a private road in a small subdivision. And I really did enjoy the new wording of how do we refer to it, Bobby, as a theme community, because it certainly allows different issues to take place where you have ponds and things like that, where you can make a private road where you can keep some of the public out. You don't have to worry about somebody getting hurt in the pond or on the property itself, especially if you're around a lot of horses and those kind of things where it's you'd like to keep somewhat quiet. So my vote is yes.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Is there anyone else who would like to speak in favor of or in opposition to any of the text amendments that have been listed? Is there anyone that would like to speak in favor of or in opposition to the text amendments that are listed? One last call. Is there anyone who would like to speak in favor of or in opposition to any of the text amendments that have been listed? Hearing no further comment, the public hearings are closed on all the text amendments that have been issued. Does the board have any questions of Mr. Fincham at this point? No?
No, I don't think so. I think we've gotten every provision that we can possibly get to protect the board and the county from having to take over a road that's substandard. So.
Okay. How do you wish to dispose of these issues?
I make a motion that we accept text amendment 072008 as presented by staff and by council.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Mr. Popowitz, seconded by Mr. Rozell, that we approve text amendment 07-2008 as presented by staff and council. Discussion on the motion. All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. The motion is carried. The next one is an ordinance to amend the zoning ordinance of Caroline County by amending Article 5, Agricultural Preservation, Section 6, permitted special exception uses by adding paragraph 16, private roads and rural subdivisions, subject to the standards in Article 15. How does the board wish to dispose of this item?
I'll make a motion to accept text amendment 08208 as presented by staff and council.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Mr. Popowitz, seconded by Mr. Rozell, that we approved text amendment 08-208. Discussion on the motion. All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. And the motion is carried. Text amendment 09-208, an ordinance to amend the zoning ordinance of Caroline County by amending Article 11, Planned Unit Development. Does the board wish to dispose of that item?
I'll make a motion that we accept text amendment 09208 as presented by staff and council.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Mr. Popowitz, seconded by Mr. Rozell, that we approve text amendment 09-208. Discussion on the motion. All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. And the motion is carried. Text amendment 10-208, an ordinance to amend the zoning ordinance of Caroline County by amending Article 11, Planned Unit Development, Division 2.
Make a motion to accept text amendment 10-208 as presented by staff and council.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Mr. Popowitz, seconded by Mr. Rozell, that we approve text amendment 10-208 as presented by staff and council. Discussion on the motion. All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. The motion is carried. Text amendment 11-208, an ordinance to amend the zoning ordinance of Caroline County by amending Article 9, Business B1, Section 3, uses permitted by special exception. How does the board wish to dispose?
Make a motion that we accept text amendment 11208 as presented by staff and council.
Second.
Motion's made by Mr. Popowitz, seconded by Mr. Rozell, that we approve text amendment 11-2008. Discussion on the motion. All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. The motion is carried. Text amendment 12-2008, an ordinance to amend the zoning ordinance of Caroline County by amending Article 15, Supplemental Regulations, Section B, Development Standards by adding paragraph 11, Standards for Private Roads. The purpose of this text amendment is to establish standards relating to private roads. How does the board wish to dispose of this item?
Make a motion to accept text amendment 12-208 as presented by staff and council.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Popowitz, seconded by Mr. Rozell, that we approve text amendment 12-208. Discussion on the motion. All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. And the motion is carried. Thank you, Mr. Fincham. That covers all the public hearings that we have and the text amendments we have this evening. Under new business, item number 5, review of chapters 3 and 4 of draft 2030 comprehensive plan. Mr. Fincham.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, you had as a supplemental handout a brief overview of the discussion points for chapters, draft chapters 3 and 4 of the draft 2030 comprehensive plan. Chapter 3 is a new chapter to the county's comprehensive plan, specifically discussing the housing characteristics here in Caroline County, as well as demographic trends relating to the housing in the county. One thing that we've noted since the last major update of the comprehensive plan is that housing growth in the county has shifted where we're seeing more development activity in our designated growth areas, which has actually been a policy of the board over the years to encourage and promote the housing development in our growth areas. In the between 1980, 1990, and 1990 to 2000, a little over 50% of the county's residential growth actually occurred in the growth areas, meaning that there was a significant amount of development in the rural areas. What we saw from 2000 to 2007 was that the growth in our growth areas increased significantly, approaching 70% by 2007. All new housing construction was in the growth areas. So I think one thing that we can take from this is that the board has been fairly successful in its previous policies about encouraging that development in the growth areas. And much of that was attributable to the fact that we got utilities to our growth areas where they were not available back in the 80s and 90s. And nowhere is more evident of that than Carmel Church and Bowling Green. We also discussed a little bit about the housing supply in Caroline County. One thing that we've continued to see is that single-family detached dwellings are the predominant housing type in Caroline County. Approximately 83% of all the housing stock in the county is single-family detached. That is significant in that typically single-family dwellings are not affordable for your first-time homeowners and not necessarily desirable for the older segment of the population who want a more maintenance-free lifestyle. We're starting to see some changes in those demographics in the form of new townhouse development that is occurring in both Ladysmith and Carmel Church. But we've not seen enough of that activity yet to significantly impact those numbers. So I think for the foreseeable future, we'll continue to see single-family detached as the desired housing type in the county, and we will continue to see those higher numbers compared to our neighboring localities, which are much more urbanized than we are. One of the areas of concern that we've identified in the update of the plan is housing affordability. And we witnessed a significant increase in the price of housing roughly from 2002 to 2007. Now, obviously, with the economy the way it is now, we've started to back away from those significant increases in housing values. But what we found was that the affordability, or housing affordability, was becoming an issue in the county due to the rapid escalation in house prices and the standards that, or the published standards for both rental and owner-occupied housing. We saw the financial institutions get creative in their financing of housing, which in part created, or at least at that time addressed some of the affordability issue. On the backside, it just made that issue more of a problem because people got mortgages that they could not otherwise afford. Like I say, the issue of affordability in terms of escalating housing prices is no longer an issue. Now we're starting to see an affordability issue in terms of people actually being able to qualify for houses even though those prices have come down significantly. So for other reasons, I think that continues to still be an issue that we need to keep track of. We also discuss housing quality a little bit, and there are specific standards that are used for to evaluate the housing stock. One is the lack of indoor plumbing, which we, over the last decade, saw a significant increase in significant decrease in the number of units that lacked indoor plumbing. A recent example of that is the decentralized wastewater treatment system in Dawn, which has taken a number of units that lacked indoor plumbing off of the list by providing public sewer to those dwellings. Lack of complete kitchen facilities is another measure to determine the quality of housing. And again, over the last decade, we've seen a decrease in a number of units that lacked complete kitchen, indoor kitchen units. And finally, the mean number of persons per room, which is indicative of overcrowding. We saw a slight decrease in that area, not as significant as we saw in the areas of indoor plumbing or complete kitchen facilities, but we did see a decrease in that area as well. By most standards, in general, a general characterization is that in some respects, overcrowding is still an issue in the county in some areas, but is not as much of an issue as it has been historically. And the other area we touch on is housing for older residents. And as I mentioned earlier, for that segment of the population, a lot of times that segment wants to move away from the single-family detached and into other housing types that support their lifestyle. To date, the only units that really have been constructed for the active adult community or the age-restricted community are units that were constructed in Bowling Green, what is now the town of Bowling Green, back in the 1980s. We have not seen any significant new age-restricted housing constructed in the county. I think the board has attempted to address that issue with a number of the development proposals that you have approved over the course of the last 5 or 6 years. We have not actually seen any of that housing constructed to date. And I think that's an area that we would need to continue to monitor over the next couple of years as we attempt to diversify the housing stock in the county. Chapter 4 is our chapter on natural resources. We actually have included a natural resources chapter since the 1994 plan, but we have updated that chapter accordingly. This chapter addresses or discusses natural resources in a manner that encourages the preservation and protection of environmental resources, but at the same time encouraging overall development in an environmentally responsible manner. The two, development and resource preservation, do not necessarily have to be mutually exclusive. In fact, we think that they can coexist and that you can have the best of both worlds with a properly planned development. This chapter inventories the resources and updates figures that were contained in previous plans which had not been updated over a number of years. For example, agriculture and forestry figures have been updated, both of which, by the way, actually show a decrease in the number of acres